I think there's a lot of people jumping to conclusions because of some FCC documents, and I'm seeing headlines that are claiming Tesla is adding back radar to its vehicles, and there's a lot of implications going on, which normally, I'm the kind of guy that speculates anyway, but I just want to present to you today the facts of the matter and what we do and don't actually know. So basically, someone caught an FCC document about Tesla that was submitting something to approval for the FCC, but mentioned that they're not going to market this new product until mid-January, so they hope to keep it quiet. Now, that was the ironic part of the story. The intention of keeping the product design or features quiet, that was issued publicly, and the part number, if you look it up on FCC's website, is specifically listed as automotive radar. Now, there were people on Twitter very quickly to assume this must be that HD radar that Elon talked about years ago. Basically, way back at either AI Day or Autonomy Day or some conference call, Elon mentioned that the current radar they were using on their vehicles that they have since scrapped like years ago in favor of going all in on Tesla Vision was not that useful, but he did say that maybe if we had high definition radar that was super precise, that would be better than what we have now, and perhaps that would even be better than just relying purely on Tesla Vision. But it's important to keep in mind that comment was made many years ago, and a lot's changed since then, and people are just kind of connecting the dots and thinking, oh, automotive radar, that means radar is coming back in mid-January. Whereas the truth is, Tesla actually has been pushing to add radar back to their vehicles at high frequencies, like over 60 gigahertz, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for full self-driving. Like, for example, Tesla has recently been approved for use of internal radar, which is more of an occupancy thing. So this is a feature to help monitor who's in the vehicle and hopefully use a sensor that's inside the car that's able to tell the difference between a human that's sitting in the driver's seat versus like a backpack or a box, and there's some smart Tesla feature that may be able to take advantage of that and compare that internal measuring distance to the weights in the seats, and I don't entirely know how that's better than just measuring the weight of the objects in seats or having an override button, but all that to say, Tesla has registered parts with the FCC that use radar, but they're not necessarily for full self-driving, they're for interior features, and those are also millimeter wave radar sensors. Now, it's important to acknowledge that those radar sensors are separate from what Tesla has filed with the FCC, but nowhere does it say what vehicles are using this. All it says is it's an automotive radar sensor. And frankly, the picture that we have from the FCC of this radar sensor does look awfully similar to the interior radar sensors that Tesla has filed for in the past. That's speculation on my part as to whether or not this is just another version of that. But I also think it's worth mentioning the context of where Tesla is today, right? Like, just a couple months ago, they dropped ultrasonic sensors across the entire vehicle line, and there's talk of Tesla refreshing the Model 3 and looking ways to cut costs, reduce complexity, get rid of parts. So that's the only reason I'm skeptical, is because the narrative Tesla has had in more recent history has all been about like going all in on Tesla Vision, not having excess parts. And if you listen to the Andrej Karpathy interview on the Lex Fridman podcast, he goes into detail on how when they're trying to design a full self-driving system, every part you add is a liability, and that's why Tesla was comfortable in the past dropping radar and ultrasonic sensors. Even if in the short term it performs a bit worse than it did in the past, it reduces the overall amount of input that your full self-driving computer has to interpret, and especially when you have sensors that are disagreeing with each other, that's when the system starts to fall apart. It's like, well, is the radar right or is the camera right? And Tesla has ultimately decided that because just knowing the distance between you and another object is one piece of information, you have to know the context of that information to base what the car actually does about it. Obviously, the cars shouldn't hit each other, but if you're watching full self-driving beta videos on lots of different channels, you notice that most of the time people intervene or complain isn't so much that like the car was going really, really fast and it was about to hit an object in front of it. It's usually that the car is not, behaving properly based on the environment around it. It's usually too timid to go at a certain time, or it turns a little bit too harshly or not enough, or it goes too slow and people honk at you. So I've been watching great channels like AI Driver and Dirty Tesla's videos on the full self-driving beta performance, and most of the time there's an intervention. It's typically not something where HD radar would have fixed the problem. And because Tesla is the type of company to be so quick to remove things, so quick to get rid of things, I'm not entirely convinced, just based on Tesla filing with the FCC a automotive radar sensor that could be used for the interior, could be used for the exterior, we don't know for sure, if that's going to be like a standard feature on all Tesla vehicles, especially if the current narrative that so many people in the comments are pushing right now is, oh, Tesla was wrong, Tesla Vision's not good enough, all those people claimed that Vision can't do it right, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I don't think whether you have LiDAR, HD radar, or cameras, you can actually achieve robotaxis. That's a different discussion, but I just think people are assuming a lot, right? They're expecting that, oh, Tesla hit a local maximum with full self-driving beta, it can't get any better, so they've decided that the only way to improve full self-driving beta is to add an HD radar sensor, and now that means Tesla is going to have to offer retrofits on every vehicle that paid for full self-driving. Even if you only paid $6,000 like 5 years ago, you're going to be able to get a free retrofit of an HD radar sensor in the front of your car. Is Tesla in that state where they're so unhappy with the performance of FSD beta, even though version 11 is right around the corner with the single stack highway features, and that should be rolling out in the next few weeks, and they're rolling it out to employees already? They're so unhappy with its performance that they're going to have to add a new sensor and retrofit hundreds of thousands of existing vehicles with HD radars. That sounds a lot less believable to me, just with the way the company's been behaving most recently. I think there's a good chance this is an interior radar sensor, or perhaps like how the Tesla Semi was seen driving over 500 miles of range on a single charge, which is cool, but people noticed that autopilot was not activated, and we know that Tesla already doesn't support autopilot if you have a trailer that you're towing, so maybe for extra levels of safety and security when you have like an 80,000 pound vehicle going down the highway, they want to add an HD radar sensor to the Semi, but that doesn't necessarily mean all Model 3s and Model Ys are getting HD radar either. I'm not saying that's an impossibility, I just think people are all very quickly jumping to a conclusion that we don't actually know about. The documentation that Tesla filed with the FCC is obviously very vague, and really the initial document that claims that they're not advertising this feature until mid-January doesn't even mention radar in the first place, and people are just like, well, this means retrofits are going to be offered to everybody who buys full self-driving, and we need HD radar to achieve full self-driving now. And I'm just like, really? Is that the first jump we're making? I think we should just take a step back and look at the facts instead of implying these giant jumps, which, considering Tesla's the kind of company to ship vehicles without ultrasonic sensors, without park assist, because they believe our camera system and our occupancy network is so good, we're not going to need ultrasonic sensors anymore, but you're just going to have to wait until we update your car with that feature. Are they the type of company that says, yeah, we need HD radar now, we got to start throwing them all back in vehicles we made from 2016 and 2017? This is going to be a very, very expensive retrofit if true, so I would definitely agree this is bad news if it is going to be required to achieve FSD, but I don't think that's the situation here. Why do you disagree, though? I'm sure some of you are convinced that we need LiDAR, we need ultrasonic sensors, and we need HD radar and 15 cameras in order to achieve FSD. All your thoughts and predictions, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody on Patreon supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps me out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.